This is misinformation in action. Did you know that, guys?
It's really inspiring to see you two young people and really into it, your subject matter.
A bit of like my story as like what got me into this. A long time ago, I myself got hacked. and, and after that, I was like, never again. It's been long since then.
Why do people have their Siri on their phone when you don't really need it to have it on? If you want to know something, you can actually ask the question and not have it on all the time.
I would mean the use of these types of platforms or systems because they're actively listening unless you turn that off. So even like, I know on Google, you can turn off the listening feature, but then there'll be a pop-up saying that your mic is muted. So it's still like somehow they're still knowing that we're saying something. And if you can mitigate this as much as possible, I would just turn it off.
Yes, I was riding along with a friend, and I was getting out of the car, and I was telling them to buy and appreciate them, and something came on that computer. I guess it was over their phone or in the car. It says, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand that." And I was like, "What is that?" I don't have that in my car, so I got scared. I said, all these things are coming up. What do? You don't talk to anybody?
You don't have to have Siri on, because having Siri on is like unbelievable what they track on you.
Like I can't keep spending the family money on new computers, and for people to come flash the hard drive. I got to do something about this. This is my allowance we're talking about here.
I work in security. So, and so I kind of know a lot about it and how people get, I understand how people get hacked, the whole 9 yards.
The most important thing about Cybersecurity Awareness Month it's been celebrated for the past 20 years. And one of the biggest things that we do, in addition to partnering, is that there's exciting programs. Misinformation in the information age. What you need to know and how to spot it. Friends and family. As small business owners, we are balancing many roles. With cyber threats against small businesses increasing, it's essential to continuously learn how to safeguard our business data and protect our customers. Misinformation, in particular, can lead to heightened vulnerabilities, while informed choices empower us to be proactive in our business security practice. This evening, our theme is Misinformation in the Information Age, what you need to know and how to spot it. We would like to extend special thanks to the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Now, this nonprofit organization was founded in 2001, and their mission is to create a safer, more interconnected world by promoting responsible technology use and educating individuals, families, and organizations on protecting against cybercrime. Through powerful partnerships, they work to amplify cybersecurity awareness and foster digital well-being. We are thrilled to introduce two distinguished professionals from BDPA, a national organization who's dedicated to building a pipeline of diverse professionals and inspiring students in STEM and digital technology fields.
Well, let me tell you about Mr. Cody. So Mr. Cody Seymour, who will be your second presenter, is proficient in cooperating in business operations to increase monthly revenue, to clearly understand computational problems and find positive solutions through deductive reasoning. And he's worked with numerous operating systems, including Linux, Cent operating system, Kali, Ubuntu, Mint, Arc, Windows, and Mac operating system. He strives to be a proven leader and demonstrating integrity, strong ethics, and the energy to influence and build responsive, competitive teams. Mr. Cody has over 10 years professional IT experience, which include desktop maintenance, repair, operations, and accompanied by over 4 years of undergraduate computer science experience. His experiences allowed him to interact with HTML, CSS, Java, Python, Ruby, and the list goes on, and a lot of letters that we don't know. In between working with technologies, he has his CompTIA Security in February of 2020, and he has been looking for work that complements his experience.
The young things that really impressed me about this young man, again, I'm a member of a phenomenal organization called BDPA, and Mr. Cody was a two-time scholarship winner under BDPA. So impressed me about this young man is the fact that he just took it upon himself to learn technologies so that he could get more proficient in the field.
I was informed that I should be giving everyone, I guess, an informational overview of what technological misinformation looks like. I have it's a matrix right here, right? So there are 4 quadrants of this matrix, right? So you got 4 things on your mind right now, right? With misinformation, right? We could kind of view it or label it however we like to. Some people call them fibs, falsehoods, fake news, whatever, right? People call misinformation kind of whatever they want to. I'm going to use the known unknowns matrix. Just imagine, right? Everyone here kind of like owns their own business. So let's say everyone here hypothetically owns 1,000 computers at one of their at the enterprises, right? And let's say, all right, you know you have 1,000 computers, but do you know what's on those computers? Do you know what those computers are connected to? Do you have everything pretty much tied down in terms of a group policy sense? And that's where misinformation can catch you off guard, especially as a CEO or the owner of any company, right? Because you've already spent enough time learning whatever skill that you have to learn so that you can establish your business in the first place. On the other side of that, you have to know how to continuously secure all of your estate so that you remain, 1, industry compliant, and 2, hackers like inside of some foreign state can't get inside of your organization. You won't have any data leaks or breaches. You won't end up on CNN or MSNBC, right? Most things, right, they can be segmented off by, right, this unknown knowns matrix. One quadrant, you have your known knowns, right, which is like K, and like, so you know what you have. You know you have a bunch of these computers, right? But you might not know what you need, right? So you know you have a bunch of computers, but you might not know how much software you need. You might not know how many patch cables you need, how many switches you need. So all of those things have to be accounted for. And even further, right, because that's only 2 parts, right? The third part is like the unknown knowns, right? So you don't know, you're at the point where you don't know what you have, right? Like you can be at a point where you just have so many assets, you just don't know how many, I don't know, ID cards or maybe laptops you've given some of your personnel. You haven't been accounting for. And lastly, there is the unknown knowns. So you don't know at all what you have and you don't know what you need. That's probably the worst state for any type of CEO to be in, right? Because you can, like, anyone can walk in and put like a flash drive in the computer if you don't have any sort of management on that computer, so that that USB drive won't fire off any scripts. What I would encourage you to imagine is that we've taken this unknown knowns matrix, and I mean, you can look this up. This is used in various industries. Take this unknown knowns matrix, and you remember how I just said, okay, imagine you're a CEO and you've already spent all that time already trying to learn what you know to establish a business. Now you need to take this unknown knowns matrix and you kind of multiply it by what is known as the OSI model. The OSI model is pretty much a logical form of how all communication across the internet happens, right? So for your computer to communicate to another server, it has to meet every single one of these requirements of the OSI model. This somewhat of an acronym, so it's PDNTSPA, right? So of course, layer 1, you have your physical. There'll be like your Ethernet port, your patch cables. How technical misconfiguration could align there. Okay, you could have a patch cable inside that computer, But if someone puts some sort of packet sniffer on that, you don't know, like you know that you're transferring a certain amount of data or a rate of data a minute or a second, but you don't know that anyone is exactly snooping or intercepting any of that data, right? Second is the data layer. I'm not going to get too deep, right? Because I know I don't have that much time, right? But the second layer is the data layer. Third is the network. Fourth is the transport. Fifth is the session. Sixth is the presentation. And seventh is the application layer. In a nutshell, for a computer to connect to a server and the server to connect back to that computer, it has to have all of these basically mapped out, right? And a single point of failure on any one of these can mean, right, as you could guess, a leak of data for you, right? It's a potential leak of data. How do you kind of manage so much with everything going on, right? So immediately right now, if I had to give everyone like a tip, in terms of like from a technological aspect on how to fight misinformation, I would definitely recommend VirusTotal, right? Because it's a very powerful site that a lot of people really don't know about, right? Like you can upload a file to it and it'll let you know how it's malicious. That's really all it takes for any sort of attacker to get inside of your organization, especially if you don't have any sort of firewall, any sort of safeguards, right? So if you haven't been vigilant in terms of these, like one bad piece of software could allow someone access to your entire organization. And as you know, organizations are composed of different sorts of networking infrastructure. And one of them could be like your domain controller, right? So someone could potentially, like if someone is exactly skilled enough, and they're able to get on one of your computers, and they have enough technical know-how, or even some people just know how to run script. So if they know how to just run a script, they could potentially compromise one of the domain controllers. You at least have everyone acknowledge, like, hey, you can receive a phishing email, you can receive some sort of dangerous file, or people will send spam emails. I'm sure all of us have received one of those somewhere or another, right? I just received one the other day from USPS, right? My order couldn't clear customs that I never placed, right? And it's like if you don't know, right, you click the link and you provide so much information to that link that's not even really USPS, and you know that's a potential way that misinformation could have your data taken from you. It can happen from an external sense, which I kind of just talked about, which is the phishing. Right, so maybe a different organization or a different person will go on some sort of phishing campaign. So they send you a bunch of emails just to see, like, or send your organization a bunch of emails just to see who will click on them. Or it could be something like I'm not sure if everyone here knows about Kevin Mitnick, but he's like an older sort of a hacker. He used to do his hacks, right, by just simply placing a phone call. All he had to do was he like call I think it was Bell South, and you know he could just get them to send him their files, like their source code, right? So it's really how informed, like, one, do you have your personnel? Two, how informed are you about your estate? The personnel part, that's totally separate from this whole OSI model I just talked about. That's where social engineering comes in, right? And I'm not gonna get too deep into that today. But from a technical aspect, the best that you can do is make sure that you're informed about your estate and how you can protect your estate. I work at a company called Tanium, and it's not supposed to be any type of pitch or any of that, but it kind of coincides with the topic, because at Tanium we try to offer what is known as the power of certainty over your estate. We do it by allowing you the ability to manage all of your assets and administer them from a security perspective, right? So say, like, once again, you do have 1,000 computers at your estate, and you do want to make sure all of them have Adobe After Effects on them, or Photoshop, or I don't know, Acrobat, right? You do want to make sure those are on those machines. Tanium allows you the ability to query all those machines at once and see, hey, here's all of the Adobe applications that you have installed in your estate. On a secondary level, right, as I said, the security administration part, right, from a policy level, and from an industry compliance level, right, you're able to do this by using different sorts of modules of ours, which can help you maintain vigilance over your estate.
Why don't I help you a little bit? Okay. Doing fine, Cody. You're doing fine. So I'm going to give you some questions and maybe you can to share. So one person asks, how can you tell if email is phishing?
You can tell if an email is phishing typically by the sender, or you can analyze the link. So on the internet, a lot of the links that you have before you click them, if you simply hover over them with your mouse, it'll give you the actual hyperlink to where you're going before you press it. If that hyperlink isn't somewhere that's authenticated, right? So if it's not like actually going to HTTPS ://USPS.com, like I'm not too quick to click it, right? Like I'm gonna investigate every single link that's sent to me. Like even if like the text I said, right? Like the USPS, it said USPS, but was it the real USPS domain, right? You can also, once again, I mentioned virus total. Virus total is useful in the way that you can provide it with URLs, and it will scan those URLs for viruses or known indicators of compromise.
So somebody said, well, why is it getting easier for others to get our personal information?
I mean, you still have the existence of insider threats, right? And that's actually what we're seeing a lot of. I kind of pay attention to some of the news on this, but some people will apply to an organization, like even from the get-go, they're already intending to do something malicious. Two, the people who are inside and not insider threats also have to be knowledgeable. If they are not knowledgeable, that is another, right? There's another link in the chain that can be strengthened, right? So if you don't strengthen all of the links within your chain, right? I mean, there are different ways to do that, which is like least privilege. This is a cybersecurity industry term, right? But you want to make sure that all of your employees only have sufficient rights to do what they need for their job, right? If you don't do that and you're letting, I don't know, Andy use Rick's password and Rick's a supervisor, right? That can lead to breaches, right? You're letting people take home their mobile devices and they use them for work, right? They're able to download company information, right? They're at home, like maybe with their children, and their children are using maybe Roblox, and they might download something malicious, right? So it really, like, to keep the best hold on that, you have to make sure that you actually enable some point of security at each point here, right? Because this is once again the OSI model, right? You have to take this into account, right? Because it's always something that can happen where someone doesn't they don't see it coming, right? That's where the punches are the hardest. You don't ever see them coming, right? But if you have as many of these kind of accounted for as you can, right? The things that you can't account for, to watch those things, right? So if I got bars on all my windows, but my door only has like only one doorknob, then it's like I know I need to watch my doorknob. I know like that's a way that people can do something with my estate. So I have to make sure I have a camera out there or something, right? You're gonna put some sort of security implementation right there.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask one more. Somebody asked, what is a script?
What is a script?
Yes.
Oh, the script is essentially an aligned collection of instructions. So you're telling the computer, hey, do this, but do it in this distinct order, right? Or if you get to this part and it's messed up, do this. That's how errors happen. When you get an error message, some of those errors are caught, right? And that's by design, right? If it's not caught by design, then you have to go speak to your architects, and they have to, right? You have to speak to your engineers, and they have to code something up. But to answer the question in basics, a script is just a set of instructions that are made for a specific platform, right? But all of these different operating systems, they go by a different rule set, right? And that's what that script is. That script is that rule set that computer will go by when it's ran.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Cody. We have one more presentation. We thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to share some exciting information with us. I know some of you may think it was really too technical for you. And I know when he was talking, I was laughing because that's how they look at me when I'm talking to them sometimes, because, it may be too much. But trust me, they really enjoyed what you said. So thank you so much, Mr. Cody. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And now we have Ms. King.
Mrs. Tenaiya King is an administrative support specialist, social media coordinator, and junior business analyst at the Premier Enterprise Solutions, LLC, where she specializes in strategic communication alongside marketing and analysis in the government contracting information technology space. King holds a bachelor's degree in journalism and mass communication with multimedia concentration from North Carolina A&T State University and has been recognized with multiple company spot awards for excellence in digital marketing strategy. With over 5 years experience in communications and marketing, King has led multiple successful media and event campaigns, driving significant growth of brand awareness for companies, agencies, organizations, and institutions in her career. These include, but are not limited to, the U.S. Air Force Research Lab, U.S. Air Force and U.S. Space Force Small Business Innovation Research, and Small Business Technology Transfer Programs, Air Force Technology, Transfer and Transition, Air Force Institute of Technology, Small Business Administration, and Black Professional Associates, BDPA. Outside of work, Ms. King enjoys reading and writing poetry. She is looking forward to engaging at the Cybersecurity Awareness Month event with us to talk about misinformation and the perception of truth. She is looking forward to talking with you today. Please put your virtual hands together and welcome her in the chat. At this time, we would like to introduce Ms. Tenaiya King.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again. So I specialize in media and communication strategy. So I'll be coming from this topic on that side of things. So my topic is digital threats, misinformation versus the perception of truth. And I'm really excited to talk about this today. Now we're going to discuss 3 parts to this. First, truth impacted by bias and misinformation. Second, mastering technology. Don't be a servant. And third, defenses against digital deception. Before we get into all of that deep stuff, I just want to ask you all a question. And you might want to turn up your volume for this one. Did you know your personal information is already leaked online? Yeah.
Yes.
Hate to break it to you, but if you've ever received a spam call, text, email, your data has already been breached and sold at a certain point by a company. It's online, it went through a system, and it's out here on the cloud somewhere up for grabs to be used, whether you delete this information or not. So this ties into one of the many ways that people get our information is through digital compliance. And one of the most preferred common digital desserts in technology is cookies. And I think it's called that because they have this tendency and indulgence that they want with the sweet taste of our personal data to save into their memory. And they want to enjoy consuming it and continue to use it as a reference for their desired manner following our online interactions. And they have all of these different categories. They say some are necessary, which I don't know how true that is, but they have targeting, advertising, functioning, all of these different categories to the point where we often don't even read them and just click accept all, and they get as much of your data as possible, which is what they want anyway. But please don't do that. It's made to be user friendly and have that accept all button real big, but it's worth reading because doing this is basically giving up your information just with free will. And with privacy policies, terms and conditions, people don't read those as well. And this is equal to literally giving someone reins over information in your life without knowing what they're going to do with it. And that's why it's important to be mindful of the information that you're letting these companies, websites have in their hands. And we can only hope these cookies that are being consumed are metaphorical with the day we live in. So let's get into truth impacted by bias and misinformation. So let's start with the truth. So what even is truth? There's a big dynamic being put out online of what that is. Technically, in definition, it's a principle, a statement, idea, concept that's backed by evidence. It's known as fact. It exists in reality. Actuality is what it is, not what you want it to be, what you wish it to be, what it seems to be, or perceive it to be. It is what it is. And what would impact those truths if they're so proven? Our beliefs. And this is complex and sometimes misconstrued because our beliefs are why we accept a certain thing to be true. And what we see, read, hear, and experience directly affects what we believe to be true. And our beliefs are the very thing that online perpetrators prey on in order to exploit us for their own illicit gain. And what's crazy about our beliefs is that there's literally studies that state when people's memories are confronted by an online entity or in person, based on the context of how it's being inquired, we can shift the memory of that event when explaining it to support the suggestibility of the situation or the circumstance to support our beliefs, formerly known as memory conformity. And this shows how perception shapes what angle we come from to support our beliefs. And these beliefs segue into our bias. This is a bridge between belief and perception. This is our preferred narrative and judgment of information, leaning more towards one side than another. You stand by it and it is what it is. That's why we see things a certain way. And this is us proving why we believe what we do. Mm-hmm. And this is also why you have to verify sources, because there's a lot of manipulation out here with people presenting facts with their beliefs and their bias. And bias is a hidden driver of misinformation, where the fuel is the sender's anticipated acceptance and openness of the perspective by the recipient. And misinformation leverages bias by depicting fact with either partial truths, which distort the true meaning, or with no context with the partial truths. Even worse, honestly, just completely making it up, deliberately just taking time to fabricate stuff, something to make it seem true by pulling on strings of emotions and sensationalism, or using like authoritative like presence to manipulate perception, to play into biases and beliefs of the sender, and making you try to either morph your beliefs or play on what you already have with those in your bias to believe their misinformation. And this is why, as said before, it's important to have evidence when you're verifying sources, because some sources aren't always reliable. And other people influence us, our societal environment, our actual environment. We even manipulate ourselves into thinking stuff sometimes. And next slide. This is where social engineering comes into play. This is basically the concept of society trying to pick and control and navigate where we're going to go. And this is just the way society is developing, the way it retains, receives information. The media does this really well, especially when it comes to bias. And the media has 6 functions, but the 3 to be most concerned about are to entertain the public, socialize new generations, and make profits. And this is why social media is free, because you are the product. So you have to be mindful of the way you're using online platforms, because these online algorithms are taking in everything you're doing, when you do it, why you do it, how you do it, how long you're interacting with it, what exactly you're clicking on, and then catering to interests over and over and quickly to keep our attention span that's now statistically short for the mass audience, to keep you engaged, continue spiking dopamine, and keep you interacting to stay online longer. And this is formally called echo chambers, reinforcing existing beliefs, and using this to target ads towards you, because they already know what you believe, or to a certain extent by what you're putting out online. So you have to pay attention to the algorithm that you're helping build based off of what you're interacting with, because you're helping them manipulate you. So, with that being said, cyber criminals, they literally love manipulation. They like media literacy and, algorithms and social engineering. They love all of that stuff. But manipulation, they want to get married to it, especially when they impersonate trusted entities, paying close attention to these algorithms and biases and beliefs to gain advantage as they distribute misinformation. And their skills are really improving. Like, they're becoming super calculated with their phrasing and the placement to persuade. And they're doing this by evoking emotion and trying to figure out what would persuade us to interact with this misleading content with their methods, by playing on interests and perspectives, blending facts with manipulations. And this leads me to my next point. While we should master technology and not be its servant, with digitized strategy, the epitome of technology's creation is purposeful digitized strategy. So people wouldn't have to manually discover or get certain things done by themselves manually. It makes things easy, which can be used to both our greater good and greater bad, benefit or detriment, based on who's in control, such as the reference cookies and terms and conditions, etc. We developed this technology as humans, but now it's becoming so smart to the point that we're getting worried with something like the controversial topic of AI, artificial intelligence. And some people agree with it, some people are against it, worried about it, some people are indifferent. But either way, it's around and it's going to grow and develop regardless. And it's in all of our devices, from the phone to the smartwatch to the TV, computers. They all use AI, even though it's presented to be for our benefit for the most part. It's like a child. It's always listening and paying attention to what we're doing to navigate us to a related outcome. For example, on Amazon, Instacart, there's a pop-up section saying, our picks and deals based on your shopping. And even Netflix and Peacock, they have, recommended shows or movies based on what you watch, your watch history. They ask, did you like it? You can give thumbs up, one thumb up, or thumbs down. You hated it. It was terrible. But with this being said, even though it's mostly presented to us in a beneficial way, they're also digesting it into their systems to use it at their discretion to make the platform more desirable and increase their users, which is bettering the user experience, also known as UX or IX. People want their companies to grow and be great. Equally, cyber criminals want their efforts to grow and be great, and they want to reap the benefits of hard work. They're taking notes consistently of the algorithms, and like I said before, what we interact with, what we put online, and researching. All of this is helping the AI and the cyber criminals, because the cyber criminals are using AI. So if you don't use technology intentionally, you'll become the tool. And we have to ensure that with the way that they have their purpose, we have a purpose and we stick to when we go online. When you're not mindful, it's just more unnecessary info that's going to be shared unintentionally. So understanding these efforts that are being used in general online manipulation and cyber security manipulation will help us be able to deflect from clicking on phishing and malware attacks that would usually get us, because they often try to intrigue us by using intentional commotion in our lives, by having the urgent importance to interact with something to either prove our belief to be true or deny it, which is the way that we usually false accept to these attacks. Next slide. And all of these things tie into why media literacy is important. There's all of these protection methods, and with these, we have to ensure that, yes, we incorporate, multi-factor authentication, backing up our data, virtual private networks, all of this stuff, but we equally have to watch what we put online and know that it's up to us, because being involved with technology, whatever we put out is now public information. And the way you put it out, even if you think a detail is small, that could be the very thing used to craft and design an attack against you specifically. Our defenses, number 3, against digital deception are to have active media literacy, but create a critical thinking culture and a security conscious culture while we're having our media literacy combined. Because you have to be active critically thinking and do your due diligence to analyze information and make sure that it's accurate. Because even day to day, has someone ever told you something and you were like, nah, that can't be true? And you're thinking through everything you know about that topic and doing your immediate research, even online right then, to prove it right or wrong. That's an active example of critical thinking. And media literacy would help us critically think by being able to identify framing techniques that want to portray a certain perception and interpret events to be looking a certain way or be on a certain bias, a certain belief in the way that it's presented, because facts can be taken out of context consciously or unconsciously, where security conscious comes into all of these consciousness. It becomes hard sometimes to protect yourself from this stuff, from misinformation, from the society, social engineering, but having a strong sense of understanding and communication skills and the way that we digest communication styles can more effectively convey the importance of these practices and why it's so important to understand. And the common denominator of what cyber criminals can take away from us, what's personal to us, it's just what matters, what we want to keep out of harm's way, what we don't want to be lost, what we built a reputation around. It's just things that we want to protect. We put investment in these things, whether it was short or long. We want these things to grow, and we want to deflect damage as much as possible. So, next slide. I saw this meme online when I was looking into cybersecurity, and I thought it was really interesting to see a depiction of how a hacker can try to influence you to click on a link or a message saying that, hey, we have this information. Thank you so much for confirming. Please just give this last confirmation. And it's like that's inapplicable at this point. I already know this information. Why would I further give you more information, especially when it depicts something that would just evoke our emotion or our interactions, when it's putting crazy emojis and having the font weird on emails. They're trying any and everything at this point. But we have to ensure that when we're online, that we're separating fact from opinion and speculation, where in basic terms, opinion and speculation will use any type of language that's evoking emotion, inflicting urgency, trying to play into our bias, our theory, our beliefs, and either exaggerate or oversimplify information. Facts is just here to inform. Simple as that. And we have to make sure when we look at messages, we identify the intent to inform, entertain, or persuade us when we're interacting with it. So, next slide. As I conclude, I would just like to leave you all with the fact that you have a mind for a reason. So use it and be mindful online so you can protect your cyber identity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. That is absolutely wonderful. Now I have some questions for you. One person asks, I know about Snopes.com I know about Snopes.com for a way to fact check claims made online. Do you know of any do you know of any more? Snopes.com?
I do not. If you can leave your email, I can follow up on that information. But I do know when you look at certain links, you can check to ensure that it has HTTPS, or if it's HTTP, that you just verify even with the Google search saying, is blank website real? And usually there's a lot of websites that'll show the basically credibility of their website.
What is the solution when misinformation is found?
Ignore it. And believe the truth.
Do you
Make
report
sure that you're only paying attention to stuff that has evidence backed up behind it, and that would be from multiple reliable sources.
Do we ever need to report it?
That's a great question. Definitely block and report when it's blatant misinformation, for sure.
Okay. Should we deactivate our devices like AI apps like Siri?
That's a great question. I would say that it is useful at times. So if you have a use for it in that moment, then you could. But most of the time, I would mute the use of these types of platforms or systems, because they're actively listening unless you turn that off. So even like, I know on Google, you can turn off the listening feature, but then there'll be a pop-up saying that your mic is muted. So it's still like somehow they're still knowing that we're saying something. And if you can mitigate this as much as possible, yeah, I would just turn it off.
Yeah, definitely disable some permissions.
I'm a security professional, but I don't recommend any of those things. Even your phone, when you turn it off, it still knows where you are. A lot of people don't realize that it's not completely off.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things like that, like a lot of people don't know about. So, yeah, I agree.
So what you said?
Oh, so yeah, I agree. I think the turning AI on off sort of question, like it all depends on what your use case is. Like how can I say, like for instance, like say, okay, like you said, Siri, right? Like say, you know, you will never use Siri for AI because you already use ChatGPT, right? Then you would disable, right? But in any case, any scenario, whatever information that you put into any sort of AI system, it will ultimately be data, right? That is the ultimate goal of AI. right? So you basically have like this massive bucket, like, and it's just full of like random like facts or random queries, right, from all of us, right? But this bucket is training this algorithm on how to behave when it's asked specific questions. So if you wouldn't like that for that to happen to you, if you wouldn't like for the AI to be trained off of your questions, off of your behavior, I think those are the best scenarios to opt out.
Well, first off, again, we want to say thank you, Ms. Tenaiya King and Mr. Cody Seymour. We thank you so much for sharing your time, your talents, and your gifts with us. We don't take this lightly as business and professional women.
Thank you so much. Definitely
He
honored.
said, what can we do with old computers?
So old computers, unless you'd like to remove the operating system that is on them and update it. If it can't be updated any longer and it's just not worth you maintaining, you could recycle it, or you could sell it, right? Or you could find like just some menial purpose for it to serve, right? Like some people might use like some old laptop is like some type of media server or something. Like they just set it up so that they can access all the videos or something, right? So you could repurpose it for some services that you might need. Like I don't know, you might have a bunch of albums or something. You can just put them all on there. At least they're in one spot. You know they won't move. They'll always be there. So yeah. And is antivirus software necessary on your computer? I think that's a subjective one. I think that depends on how savvy you are with technology, right? If you know so much, you could potentially find some software out there. You can set up your own intrusion detection system. Right? You can set up your own. Hey, once this wire is tripped, let me know, right? But in the case where you don't want to spend all that time becoming tech savvy, you like to use the data from I don't know McAfee or Kaspersky, because that's what those algorithms are trained up off of. They're trained off of older vulnerabilities, right? So if you don't have no interest of like spending your time learning about it, I do suggest for you to invest in antivirus.
And Dr. Brown, you asked, do you need to remove the data some way before giving the computer away? I would say absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. You want to take the guts out.
Yeah, the hard drive.
Take out that hard drive.
Hard drive, yeah.
And what I do is I smash it into pieces.
Yeah.
That hard drive. Do not do that. And if you don't know how to do that, as a matter of fact, what I also did with one hard drive, I reformatted and I put my husband's all his music on there. But the thing is that the most important thing to answer your question is yes. Please remove the hard drive or get someone to remove it. Definitely.
And also, even if you overwrite stuff, it still doesn't get rid of everything. And so, especially the older computers, so you really should take the hard drive out and because that's what they do, like the government, when they destroying stuff, when they have to move out quickly, they literally have machines that chops it up into bits, like little teeny weeny pieces. So it's best to take, if you're going to give away your computer, it would be I would take the hard drive out or have somebody, if you don't know how to do it, have somebody take it out, especially in them older computers. And don't give it away. Like you could give it away to some kid to break it down, to learn about the computer and the parts in it. But I would definitely take that hard drive out of there.
In summary, everyone, we thank you all. Misinformation is incorrect. So misleading information. Misinformation can exist without specific malicious intent. Disinformation is distinct in that it's deliberately deceptive
and provocative.
Thank you. Misinformation can include inaccurate, incomplete, misleading, or false information, as well as selective or half-truth. And in January 2024, The World Economic Forum identified misinformation and disinformation propagated by both internal and external interests as the most severe global risks within the next 2 years. So who knows, in 2026, when we're doing our next presentation, we might be doing this all over again. But thank you so much, everyone.
In your opinion, are the newer computers safer than some of the older ones that we have?
They do have newer security features, and yes, I mean, now I would say they are arguably more defensive than older operating systems. Because right, like older operating systems have known vulnerabilities that even by end of life they might not have even patched.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, and that's why like a lot of companies are like, hey, make sure you keep everything up to date. We want to make sure. I mean, even like the company I work at, right? Like we attempt to keep all of your software up to date, from like your operating systems to like very granular little applications your employees use, right? We provide you the ability to make sure everything's up to date, so that all of your security baseline
systems are good. So in addition to that, I use what? I use ESET, Smart Security Premium, and I found that to be really good.
Yes,
and it pops up and stops malicious looking things trying to attack my computer. So I found it really helpful.
Yeah, the key is to always keep your stuff up to date.
Yes.
Don't let it expire.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta.
true. So I set my computer so that it does automatic updates and and not wait for me to manually do it, because sometimes I sleep on when it should happen, and I find that that's working better for me.
Yeah, and then I don't know whether you guys know about it, but you can go out the US-CERT, and they tell you everything that even your applications that you have on your computer. If you join that, they'll send you things that, especially for programs that you might have. So, and that'll tell you when you shouldn't use something or something's in the life. So, yep.
What is that? US-CERT?
US-CERT,
yeah.
CERT, yep. US-CERT, yep. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Just Google that and you'll see, and you can join it, and then they'll tell you stuff about, and you can look up stuff. They have these things that they have messages that come out, and they tell you all about the things that are like not good for your computers.
This was an excellent program, and I needed everything that you shared. And Tenaiya and Cody, please keep up the good work. We need you all so bad.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can always reach out to me directly. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always welcome in the.
Okay, don't tell me that now.
What in the world, like, do we do? Do we just act like perfect people now because our devices know everything about it? Do you? I mean, since you guys are still on, do you think that it's going to push us behaviorally? Do you think we're going to have to start trying to live perfect lives around our devices? Like,
there's no way. Honestly, I mean, we're imperfect as humans. All we can do is try our best and be mindful online.
And I think it depends on like your hygiene, like your technical hygiene. Like, okay, of course, my data's been compromised, and there's this website that you can go on to, and if you put your email in it, I think it's Have I Been Pwned? Like, let me try to find it here. Yeah, so Have I Been Pwned, right? So like whether or not your email has been compromised. But I mean, in the simplest sense, to kind of counteract whenever a breach does happen, that's where the hygiene comes into play. That's where like I use things like the password managers. I use like different complex passwords for every single account that I have. I try not to use passwords at all, because like there's been a point where like, yeah, I could go on the internet, I could search myself up, and I'll find a password I had like a long time ago. And like it's not anywhere, but they might have breached it, but at the point of breach isn't the point where they have your password. the point where they have your password is where they go through the database and they decode it from a hash into your actual password. That is where they actually have your information. When they first take it all off from someone else's estate, it's not decrypted, right? It's just everything is, everything, unless like you've been storing it in plain text, that's a different story, but you shouldn't be doing that anywhere. Everywhere should be hashing every single password that they all of their users use, right? So if an attacker gets all that data, what separates them from accessing your account is how good are you with your digital hygiene, right? What separates, because they're going to take that password and use it for different accounts. It's natural. Like they're gonna go to BestBuy.com, Amazon.com. They're going to go Walmart.com. They're going to go to all those places. And if you have an account on there, they're going to try that password and see if it works.
Recently, I got a bill for like $700 and something. I didn't even open it because I know I didn't order it, and I just deleted it.
Those are the funniest ones.
Was that the right thing to do? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Thank you for your order. $796. I'm like, what kind of order is this? No, so I just.
Yeah, that's a scam.
Yeah. You don't need it on your phone unless you can turn it on when you need it, but not all the time. And I don't understand why people do that. I work in security. So, and so I kind of know a lot about it and how people get, like, I understand how people get hacked, the whole 9 yards, but there's certain things you never should do. Like when you put an app on your phone, it asks you whether you want it to be on all the time. And you can just say no, only like locate you when I'm using the app. If you're not using the app, you shouldn't be locating. You can go and fix those things, but a lot of people don't understand that they can do that. And it's kind of like the thing that when I think people buy PCs, and when you buy a PC, I guess Microsoft 11, the new version of Microsoft does this. But prior to that, when you bought a PC and you got it, there was no directions to tell you that on your PC, you should have a password for everybody that uses that PC. And you can set it up, but there's no directions on that. And that really is an unfortunate. You open up your PC and it's open to the world. So, but they don't tell you that. Now, I don't have Microsoft 11, the new operating system, but someone told me they do. That is a feature of it. But they don't really tell you that prior to that. And people still keep their old computers.
See, the president of BDPA of the Memphis chapter, Naeem, the national president, was on as well. Terry Brooks is the Northern Virginia president of BDPA. I'm trying to see if anybody else, Mr. Lopez, I think Mr. Lopez, he came to support Mr. Tenaiya King as well. Right, Mr. Lopez?
Of Tenaiya. And just appreciate, one of our service offerings is cybersecurity. And is the type of information that is critical to keeping systems safe. But the information she provided was fantastic. She is an award-winning true asset in our company. So Tenaiya, we're so, so proud of you.
Thank you so much.
NANBPWC is offering scholarships through Google certification. And there are several different areas that you can specialize in, and if you're looking to further your career or wanting to learn some other skills that may be more applicable in the job market now.
And now we thank you for taking time out. Of course, we always have our survey. For those of you who are very good at using a QR code, if you could take your cameras, you can access the link.